going to say it again. Gaze out.
Hello and welcome to the Brit Iron Podcast Week 4 preview. I'm your host James, and today I'm joined by my good friends Matt and Sam, and we've got another heater of an episode for you. We're going to run through all of the games that are going to be played this week in the NFL. But before we do that, let's jump straight into the news. So boys, off the back of week 3, and we had a blinding matchup last night, Monday Night Football, where the Chiefs went to play the Ravens, my Ravens, who I was very high on coming into the season. But it wasn't to be for Baltimore. A big loss, 20-34.
It's a humbling.
Very much so. In favour of the Chiefs. Lamar Jackson, 97 passing yards, 83 rushing yards. The Chiefs had a total of 517 total yards against the Ravens, 228. So obviously a very disappointing week for the Ravens. But, do we reckon that the Ravens can, get over the hump and maybe beat the Chiefs when it counts in the postseason?
I think it's very early to say, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much football to be played. The teams in week 3 are not the same teams that roll into January. A lot of injuries will happen. Unfortunately, a lot of players will pop up. A lot of players will kind of fall away. There's so much to happen. The big thing I've taken from this game is just how money in prime time Patrick Mahomes is. And there are not many. There are a lot of good and great players throughout the course of NFL history, but those guys who step up and they have their best games when the lights are brightest against the best teams, they don't come around very often. And Mahomes going up against a guy who has just won an MVP made Lamar Jackson and the Ravens look bad. That isn't, in my opinion, anything against the Ravens. I think that's how good the Chiefs were last night.
Yeah, I think my biggest concern coming out of this is actually the comment from, I don't know if it was just post-game or today, so I have time to reflect. And that's Lamar Jackson saying, essentially, they're the Ravens' kryptonite, which when they're going to be potentially your biggest competitor for years and years moving forward, that's a worrying attitude to have taken. It might just be an off-the-cuff comment, but if that's at all playing on his mind, that's a concern for me. Because I really would have tipped them big for regular season. Said it last week that regular season I'll take them, playoffs I'll take the Chiefs just because I prefer Mahomes in that environment.
Yeah.
And after last night, now I'm like, well, hold on. If Lamar Jackson sort of seems to be getting into that mindset week 3, what's he going to be doing if it was an AFC Championship game? So it's worrying.
Yeah, it's disheartening to hear, and it was disheartening to watch. I mean, I woke up early this morning to watch the highlights with great excitement. Set my alarm for 6 a.m. Got up really excited to watch it. And then within 10 minutes of the highlights, I was just, what is going on? We couldn't get anything done. We couldn't run the ball. Lamar Jackson couldn't connect any of his throws. Defense was sloppy. It just didn't look good. One highlight, of course, was the Devin Duvernay touchdown, the 97 yards punt return or kick return, whatever it was. But apart from that, there was nothing to get excited about this game. This completely shuts down any 16-0 talks about the Ravens.
Yep.
Which may be a good thing, having that over your head.
You'd rather do it now than in January. So who knows? Maybe this is a preview of the AFC Championship game, and maybe the coaching staff of the Ravens are going to look back on that film and see something which in 4 months' time takes you to the Super Bowl. Yeah. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. Yeah. One game, but exactly. The Ravens looked poor and the Chiefs looked dominant.
Yeah. Similar to, I think, coming off the back of that Bucs Saints week 1. Better to get humbled now. It happens now than in January. So I think,
exactly.
No one press the panic button. No one be freaking out.
Yeah, definitely. But long term, there's still a lot of potential. But
talking
moving on,
of panic buttons,
and short term, let's talk about Adam Gase and the Jets, the New York Jets football team. As of recording, he still has a job, and the very fact that I have to say, as of recording, about a head coach having their job is a bad sign, because it means that any day, any week, he could be gone. Now, the rumour is, I believe, this Thursday night football game against the Broncos, if they perform badly and lose, this would be the end of Adam Gase and the New York Jets.
Can we go back and re-record that comment that you just said there, please, James? If they perform bad. When they perform bad, this is a team that they just don't look competent. They're not ready to compete at the NFL level at the moment. There's 31 other teams, and then a step below at the moment is the Jets. I think they're probably the only team in the league that I can't see winning a game this season. Unless something changes drastically, or they get really lucky from the way they're playing at the moment, they are that bad. And you've got a feel for the Jets, because Sam Darnold, I think, is actually a very capable and a very good quarterback. They've got unlucky with a number of free agents not really panning out. Le'Veon Bell's not been what they expected him to be. They've been very very unlucky with injuries. What was the linebacker that they brought in from the Ravens a couple of years ago?
CJ Mosley.
CJ Mosley. He's basically been a non-factor because he's been injured the entire time. They lost a couple of key pieces. They've had a number of injuries on the offensive side of the ball, so Darnold has no weapons. So yeah, they've been unlucky in that sense, but it's just a poorly run franchise, and everything just get Gase out, gut the place, and build around Darnold and give him an actual shot at being an NFL quarterback, because he is a franchise guy. He's just missing all of the things that you need around a franchise quarterback.
I mean, it's bad when your inner city competition is the Giants and you're the worst team in that city.
And not by a close margin. I would be confident that the Giants would beat the brakes off of the Jets.
At this point, 100%. But I think
probably
if they lose to this Broncos team on their third quarterback of the year by week 4, obviously Drew Lock getting injured, nothing they can do about that. That happens. But if they lose this game, when just Denver are plagued by injuries right now, this would just be, it's got to be nail in the coffin. Gase out. At some point, get the front office out and just kind of move on.
Somewhere Trevor Lawrence is having a genuine discussion with his parents and his people, saying, should I go back to Clemson next year?
Yep.
Because he doesn't want to go there. No one wants to go there. I mean,
you're going to see him and Justin Fields just being like, who can throw the most picks? I don't want to be the first pick.
Not me.
Running into their own end zone. Like, does he
would
stop
not
me
surprise me.
First?
Is this the next year that we get another Eli Manning?
I'm
not going there.
What could happen?
I mean, it worked really well for Eli Manning, and this is a team that historically is a poorly run organisation, and you don't want to see it happen to these young players, and you feel sorry for everyone in and around that Jets team, because it's unfair on the players how badly it's being run. A lot of the coaching staff, they're trying their best, but honestly, Adam Gase is incompetent. I think they need to just wipe out that front office, start again, build a new culture, commit to the rebuild, and commit to Sam Darnold. Stop this half-arsed kind of, we think he's the guy, let's build around him, and not really committing. Just give it a shot and get rid of Gase.
There's pieces, like we talked about in our preview, they're not maybe on the defensive side as much, but there's pieces that you could do something with. Like, there's players that you should say that in a moment can step up and get you a win here and there. But currently, where are they? Like, I don't know. It's got to be scheme. It's got to be coaching. It's got to be something, because you don't get a whole team of players not show up week in, week out without something being wrong in that locker room. So I think, I genuinely, I think for the Jets, the best thing would be if they can just, and for Darnold to come out, not play your best Thursday, get Gase sacked, new coach in the morning, sort of thing. Like,
see ya.
Move on.
Yeah, I think we're all fully on board with the Gase out train. Sam, you definitely have been for a while, and me and Matt made a joke out of it, but now I think I'm definitely fully on board. And Matt, it sounds like you are as well.
It's just not good for football.
I'm there now as well. They're ruining Brashard Perriman in his prime. It's outrageous.
They're ruining football. They are ruining football. I don't want to sit and watch. I'm the kind of person that I will sit down and watch football. Doesn't matter if it's a team or support. Where if it's some nonsense Div 2 school from college ball, I'm going to sit down and watch it. But it's getting to the point with Jets games where after a quarter, there's nothing in it. I'm not watching good football. The opposition teams aren't doing anything exciting because they don't need to. They're just going to run the ball, run the clock out, and make sure none of their stars get injured. And the Jets just don't have a hope in hell of doing anything productive. Sam Darnold's trying to pull things out of his behind, and in fairness to him, he's made a couple of really good plays, but it's not ever going to be enough, and they need to sort it out. So, Gase out.
Gase out. And perhaps we should move on from Gase out. and move on to something we've briefly mentioned there. Matt, you mentioned the Broncos being on their third string quarterback. This is, of course, news coming out today, this Tuesday the 29th of September, and that is that Brit Ripien. Yeah. Exactly who? How do you pronounce his name? What does he do? What has he done? Like,
absolute legend. We were chatting about it earlier. He's undrafted out of Boise State.
Yep, last year.
Whew. I mean, what a program Boise State is.
I think
he must be a don.
This change, maybe even coming off of the week against the Bucks. Like, I'm going to be biased, but it's a good defense. It's an aggressive defense. I think maybe it's a bit rough. I think, are they kind of throwing him under the bus here? Like, kind of, it's a team where you think, are they really good? I mean, I know it's against the Jets, so it should be a much easier matchup, but I don't know. I just don't like this. It's almost like they're panicking. Drew Lock's gone down. They've had, a game and a half of football out of Driscoll and said, right, next guy up, next man up, move on. I don't know. I don't know about this for me.
And they signed Blake Bortles as well. Like,
yeah. Why?
That's the weird one about this.
For this.
I would have started Blake Bortles over Driscoll and Ripien, and especially in this game, I see this game as an opportunity for the Broncos to steal a win, come away at 1-3, reevaluate and think, right, when do we get Drew Lock back? Because Drew Lock is the crux of their season. If they're going to perform anywhere close to how we kind of expected that they might or could, obviously I think that's probably out of the question now with the number of injuries they had. And there have been a couple of issues with that O-line watching. I know I don't want to bring it up, James, but Lloyd Cushenberry at a couple of occasions at the weekend looked, quite frankly, out of his depth. He didn't look like he was able to cope.
Disappointing.
But I mean, this is what we said 3 months ago when we were discussing Lloyd Cushenberry and a couple of these guys coming in. It was a baptism of fire because of everything going on in the league. You don't have the right time to adjust. It's boom. By the way, you're a starting O-lineman in the league. Go and stop our guy from getting hit. I think he will adjust, and I think this is a team that will work into it. If they can steal a win here with the run game, Brett Ripien doesn't have to come out and be great. He just has to hand the ball off because this Jets team is that bad, and the Broncos can probably just sit back, let their defense get a couple of picks, and I can see this being a very boring, low-scoring game. Yeah. But if they can get out of it with a win, get one win on the board, creep forward, and just try and survive until Drew Lock comes back, then I'm not willing to call the Broncos dead on the year yet.
My biggest concern with this is for whoever goes in at quarterback. We've said the offensive line looks sketchy. You said lean on the run game. There was a play, I saw a replay of it earlier, I hadn't noticed it while the game was live, where the Bucs managed to shut down the run using the Broncos' own offensive linemen. They crushed them either side and stopped the run and took him down. I'm like, that is when your own offensive linemen are being used as weapons against you as the running back. You've got to get downhearted by that. Like, that's got to play into it. And moving forward, I don't know. I think this could be a weird game. But from the Broncos' point of view, I'm not feeling maybe as confident as Sam on the rest of the season. I think it's too late potentially by the time Drew Lock comes back.
It depends
for this year.
If they can snag this win, obviously if they lose this game, in my opinion, that's them gone.
No
whether you're on your third string or not, if you can't beat this Jets team, who effectively are starting third stringers across the board, then you're done. You're not coming back. Like, no matter how, like, Drew Lock will have to come out and have an MVP season in order to then drag them back. But if they can get the win, start to establish the run game, and kind of lean on that while Drew Lock's getting healthy, then I'm not quite ready to rule them out yet, because I do think they have a lot of talent.
Yeah, a very exciting game on Thursday night, which we're all buzzing for, as you can tell. That brings us very nicely onto our final news piece of the week, and that is one that broke out a few hours ago today. Again, it's Tuesday the 29th when the news is breaking. And that is the news that there's been a number of positive COVID tests around the league. Actually, it's more towards the Titans, I believe it is. It's 3 new players tested positive and 5 new personnel has tested positive. And there's potential postponements for Sunday. I believe they're meant to play the Steelers, aren't they? The Titans.
Yep. Titans, Steelers. I think they played the Vikings recently, so it'd be Vikings, Texans, I believe is the other game I read.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
So those two, there's question marks, but it's all dependent on tests and what comes back and who's got it, who they've been near. I think we saw on Hard Knocks the little chips they're working with, so they can pinpoint the exact players they've been near.
Yeah. Everyone's getting tested every day.
Yeah.
So,
but I think the biggest thing is Titans not in the building now till Saturday. The Vikings are sort of not announcing it yet. They're sort of cards close to their chest, waiting on test results. But I think we probably see the games pushed back to Monday as the worst case. Which I think, especially with no fans in the stadium, is way easier to arrange all of that now. You don't have all the other off-the-field security and policing and all those kind of issues and staffing issues. You can just move games. So I think that's probably the most sensible thing, just to give extra days of testing, because you don't want to suddenly jump it from 2 teams to 4, because that gets out of control very quickly.
Yeah.
It is concerning.
It's a little bit concerning, but this I think the benefit that the NFL's got is you had the NBA and the NHL and the MLB. Everyone else, the Premiership and most of the major sporting leagues around the world returned to some form of activity quite a bit before the NFL. So it's not like the NFL didn't know this was coming. Don't think anyone in or around the NFL ever expected to go 16 weeks without positive tests. So this is something theoretically which we'll have contingency plans for, that is expected, and I think I'm actually quite interested to see how this plays out, just to see how well the NFL deal with it. Some people on Twitter have been panicking. Oh, is this the end of the season? Are they going to shut it down? It's like, hold up, we've had 8 people test positive. They've already put the 2 teams that were exposed into it effectively into a non-action, so it can't spread. So they are dealing with it. I'm pretty confident that they'll go through the testing. This will go ahead. They might delay the game by a couple of days, and that ultimately things will be okay. So I wouldn't worry about this too much just yet.
I'm just concerned because I have 3 Titans players in my fantasy football roster, and Sod's Law says that's the 3 that have got it.
It probably is, to be fair.
It'll be interesting to see how this shakes up and what comes of this. Because the one thing is, as much as they're keeping people out of the buildings now, they've all gone straight back into a locker room together. So it's almost, as much as they have to close the building, it's kind of too late on that front. They've got to, and it makes sense, but it could have already gone around the team. But fingers crossed that, this kind of gets smoothed out. I mean, what was it the MLB one team had? Was it 18 players at one time?
Marlies.
And they've managed to continue there, going into their playoffs now. So I think it'll be fine. I don't think anyone needs to, again, hit the panic button. But it's just concerning that it's the first breakout.
Yeah, exactly. And like Sam said, there's definitely going to be contingency plans and stuff in place. And, fingers crossed that it all works out. But that's the news for the week. A lot to talk about there. And now it's time for a segment that has come out of young Sam's brain.
Yes. So
what is that, Sam?
My weekly segment this week, obviously for start of week 1, we kind of after week 1 happened, we did our overreaction Monday, or overreaction Tuesday, I suppose, as we do record on Tuesday. Yep. Then last week we did kind of a more rationalisation. I want to take us all the way back to the kind of the more wacky stuff. Nice. So I want to talk. We're 3 weeks in now. Seems like a pretty solid time to take a stab in the dark at who we think might be the MVP. Now, I don't want to go with the boring ones here. We all know Russell Wilson's probably going to win the MVP if he keeps playing how he is. We all know Aaron Rodgers is going to be in the conversation. We all know that Josh Allen's going to be up there at this point if he keeps playing. These are the guys that on the betting, they're 10-1, they're 7-1. I want to talk some of the slightly more interesting picks. I want a bit of backstory. Why are you picking this, guys? What needs to happen? So I'm going to throw this to Matt to start with. I want one guy who you think, whilst he's a bit of an out there pick, does have a route to being the NFL MVP this year.
So I'm delving into the NFC South, sticking close to home, but not going where you might think. Might not being a biased Bucks fan here. I'm going to the Saints. Probably quite obvious off of just the team. There's only one player, and it's Alvin Kamara. He has been currently the life and soul of that team. Yep. I mean, Breeze looks washed. See, Michael Thomas is out. See what happens when he comes back. But right now, Kamara they may not be winning games, but he's at least making them seem competitive and putting that team on his back. At this point, after week 3, he's got 153 rushing yards, which is 28th in the NFL. That's not that great, but that's not where I'm pitching this from. 3 rushing touchdowns, tied for 7th in the NFL. There's a couple groups. I think 6 players on 4, big group after that on 3. 285 receiving yards, which is 5th in the NFL. He's not even a receiver. He's the 5th best currently, so he's doing well. 3 receiving touchdowns, tied for 4th. So what I've done is kind of worked that out over a season. And currently, he's on track to have 816 rushing yards. It's nothing impressive. Nothing that makes you think MVP. 16 rushing touchdowns. We're getting there. That's a solid effort.
Nice.
1,520 receiving yards and 16 receiving touchdowns. That separately is a good year for a wide receiver. You combine that, and if he does that, so 32 touchdowns on a season, your name's got to be out there for that. And then at 816 rushing yards, the 1,500 receiving, so he's breaking the 2K mark in all-purpose yards, but with 32 touchdowns. Like, if that's not most valuable player to your team putting up that many touchdowns, what is?
Yeah.
That's where I'm coming at this from.
If someone scores 32 touchdowns, it's pretty hard not to say, yeah, go on.
Yeah.
It's
definitely a shout.
Yeah, exactly. So, James, what about you? Who do you think has got a bit of a stab in the dark at the MVP conversation?
Well, this one's going to be slightly controversial, given the way his team has started the year. You know what? I'll cut to the chase. My MVP early 2-bowl prediction, whatever you want to call it, is Deshaun Watson of the Houston Texans. Currently 0-3.
Bit of a turnaround required then.
Yeah, that's what it does bank on a little bit. But, he recently signed a big deal, big money deal. He's getting paid a lot, very highly valued in Houston and by everyone else around the league. Last year was a pretty good year. 3.8k yards passing, 26 touchdowns, 400 yards rushing, 7 rushing touchdowns, and he also led his team to the divisional round in the playoffs where they played the Chiefs. Now, they were 21-0 up against the Chiefs before his defense let him down. So last season, he was getting it done. And that's only a few months ago, so not much has really changed in the end, apart from, maybe losing his number 1 wide receiver option, blah, blah, blah. But they have filled in with other options at receiver for him. So it's not as if he hasn't got weapons to help him out. And you know what? Last year as well, up until week 10, he was a front runner for MVP. So he can do it. He has got the ability, and we all know that. Now, looking on to this year, I mentioned it before, he's 0-3. Now, the first 3 games have not been easy, and I'd argue it's probably the roughest.
That's a buzzsaw.
Yeah, it's the roughest 3-game start to the season for any team in the NFL so far in 2020. 100%. Ravens, Chiefs, and Steelers.
The 2 best offenses and maybe the best defense.
Exactly. So not many people are going to come out too well against those teams, and it's a reason why they're tipped so highly. And people look at his stat line. He's been sacked 13 times this year. But again, I'll reference to the 3 teams he's just played: the Ravens, the Chiefs, and the Steelers.
Yeah.
So this number of sacks is hyperinflated, and you can see this. It will still rise because that O-line does need a little bit of work. But it's not gonna continue going like 26 after 6 weeks and 39 after 9. Quick maths.
I hope not, for his sake.
But it's a small sample size that is hyperinflated. And you know what? Again, I mentioned there's 3 teams, good defenses, but his pass completion is already marginally better than it was last season. So he's already doing some good work. And Bill O'Brien has come out in public said that, quote unquote, we need to protect him better. So if they can do that and keep him up, the schedule is there for him to have a big rest of the season. Look at his schedule now. Yeah. They're playing the Vikings next week. That's a good turnaround game. They're playing the Jags twice. They're playing the Browns. They're playing the Lions. They're playing the Colts. They're playing the Bears. They're playing the Bengals. All there for the taking.
That's winnable.
Exactly. Winnable games. And obviously,
games.
They're in the AFC South against the Jags, the Colts, and the Titans. Before the season, you would have backed the Houston Texans to win that division, and I still think they can. And I think that all pins around Deshaun Watson turning them around and winning the MVP this year.
I like that pick. So I'm going to roll to an AFC team, and I'm actually going to roll to the Cleveland Browns for my MVP pick here.
Okay.
And I am going to go with Nick Chubb at the
Oh.
running back position. Now, I believe Nick Chubb actually has the same odds to win the MVP as Deshaun Watson. They're both around 50 to 1. I believe Vegas have got them at the moment. And my kind of thinking behind this is almost similar to what James is saying, is he would win MVP off of the back of just a turnaround of the team. Now, we've seen it this weekend especially, and the weekend before, with the way that the Browns are going to win games. They're going to run the ball.
Yep.
They're going to run the ball a lot. And Kareem Hunt is going to get a lot of carries.
Mm-hmm.
But Nick Chubb's going to get more. And I think the reason that Kareem Hunt's getting a lot of carries is because Nick Chubb is going to get all of the really important carries when it really matters. And then when the game's won and it's put away and they don't need to risk Nick Chubb, they'll give it to Kareem Hunt because Kareem Hunt's a great back as well. Nick Chubb is undoubtedly the best running back on that team. And that's saying something because Kareem Hunt's a really good running back.
Yeah.
He's one of the best 3 or 4 backs in the league, and this is a team that is built to run around him. He's averaging 5.7 yards a carry, and that's across 51 carries. It's not a small sample size across 3 games. He's getting 19 attempts a game. Touchdowns are still kind of, we're waiting for them really to come in terms of for him in bulk. But I think they will. But I don't think touchdowns is where he wins this. I think this is because they realise that the running the ball is gonna be where they win games. That opens up the play action for Baker, which is where Baker excels. If you don't ask Baker to throw the game away, he won't. And I think Baker will come out, will be a lot more solid off of the back of Nick Chubb, just consistently give him the ball twice, he'll get a first down. And I think his yards per carry could go up. Currently, he's projected for nearly 1,600 yards on the season. Would not surprise me if they really commit to him if he goes for over 2,000. If this is a team that gets to 11 or 12 wins, now I know it's a long shot, but if they lean on the run, they do have the chance to do that. That defense is starting to look good, especially with Denzel Ward back in. Then Nick Chubb could genuinely be in with a shot of not only getting all those goal line carries when it really matters, but just being the core that this team's built on. And if they can make the playoffs for the first time in 10 years or something silly, I mean, it's the first time in 14 years, I believe, that they've been over 500 or something. Or since 2014, that's it, that they've been over 500 this week. So I think Nick Chubb's got a real shot, if the Browns get rolling, to be in with a shot at that NFL MVP.
Yeah.
I like
Certainly
it.
a talented offense. But obviously AFC North quite stacked, so that makes that division all the more interesting.
It's a
if
long
that
and
does come
tricky
true.
road to that one.
Just wait till he goes for 400 yards over 2 games against the Steelers.
That is a hot take.
Let's not clip that one.
I think
Let's
we should-
not
yeah, I was gonna
clip
say we
that
should
one.
I
clip that
was
right
just
now.
thinking I am going to be clipping that for days.
We should clip that one right now.
Putting that on
but-
Sam's hot take highlights come the end of the year.
I'm gonna get
montage.
murdered. I'm gonna get murdered at the end of the year. I won't ever be able to show my face on
it's gonna be
any
incredible.
form of podcast or Twitter again.
But I think 3 great picks there. All similar odds as well. So, excited to see who does the best out of those 3, actually. If you like. So, yeah, good picks, boys. Good picks.
Cheers, buddy.
Right, on to the week 4 previews.
Here we go.
And we are going to
What a game
kick
to
it off
start
with the Thursday night football game. We have talked about this one a little bit already, so we'll keep it nice and short. Obviously, the Broncos 0-3 going to play the Jets, also 0-3 potential Gase out game. Broncos coming into this one -2 on the spread, so just about favourites, which is quite short for a spread line this week. All things considered, with how bad the Jets are, which we've
I'm
touched
taking
on.
the Broncos -2.
Yeah. My question was going to be anything to be excited for this game, and I think the only thing I can think of is that spread line.
The
Everything
beer at
else-
halftime?
I'm
beer
not going to
halftime,
lie.
Going to bed
There is a
afterwards, maybe.
Part of me that is a bit concerned by this. I really, really want, as we've covered already, Jets lose, Gase out, job's done. Move on. But this just seems like it being a Thursday night football game between a Broncos team that's broken down and injured. I'm actually concerned that somehow it's going to be a weird one of those games where Frank rolls back the clock. Darnold suddenly goes, I was worth a pick. Even though he's thrown to no one, he somehow makes it work. And I'm actually a little bit concerned, and I just think it's one of those weird
Is
games
a lockup coming?
that happens. I'm not locking
Is Matt going to lock up the Jets?
I'm going with the Jets here. I don't want it to
Let's
happen,
go!
but I can see it happening. It's because it's Thursday
Let's
night
go.
football. The Broncos are changing their quarterback. Injuries on injuries on injuries. And it's the kind of annoying game that Adam Gase has made it. He just made a career off winning and somehow just sticking around and always being there. That I think somehow the Jets come out with some weird victory here that they don't deserve. They just somehow get it done. And everyone's like, what? What's happened here? Much like how James is reacting now, that's going to be all of us on Friday morning when we wake up and see that scoreline and we're like, no, this means he stays.
I can't believe you just said that.
I'm
I can't
going
believe you just said the
Jets. I hate
are gonna
myself
win a
for
game
it,
this early.
but I actually think the Jets could take this.
Oh, no.
I'm worried.
No,
I don't want them to.
Broncos -2.
One more. Nope.
How are we doing? Keep it moving.
Keep it moving. Also, just worth noting, this is the lowest under-over of the week at 40, so bear that in mind as well. It's not expected to be a fun game to watch. But maybe we'll move on to some more fun games.
Yeah.
Thursday night prime time. Am I
I feel
right?
sick with myself for that, so can we move on?
Yeah,
please?
that was horrendous.
I'm not happy, I'm not proud, but I've got to
That's
go.
gay.
He's done
baby.
it now. He's done it now. But right,
That
the
is
6 p.m.
gay, baby.
games. 6 p.m. Sunday slate, and we'll kick it off with the Arizona Cardinals going in to play the Panthers. Sorry, the Panthers. They're playing the Cardinals. Are slight favourites here at 3.5 on the spread, despite coming off the back of a loss to the Lions in week 3. And do you know what? Kyler Murray, a bit shaky in week 3.
Yeah.
3 interceptions. So do you reckon he can get it back together and sort of hit his week 1, week 2 form against the Panthers this game?
I think he can.
Yeah.
I think this is this is a really tricky one to call because the Cardinals are coming in favoured, but -3.5, they're not favoured by much, and I'd actually be tempted to take the Panthers at +3.5 here, just because I think this is a Panthers team that's kind of like growing into itself. Do you know what I mean? Like they've got a lot of pieces there. They're just young and they're unproven, and they've never played as a team together. They showed last week against a Chargers team that is nowhere near as bad as I thought the Chargers were going to be. I will be honest. The Chargers have been looking, in general, a lot better. And the Panthers came out and looked competent. Now, the way the Cardinals played against the Lions, who are, in my opinion, one of the worst teams in the NFL at the moment, maybe bottom 5, the Cardinals didn't fill me with confidence. And watching Kyler Murray, I didn't think... I must admit, I never thought Kyler Murray was a real MVP candidate. I think his game, he's got a lot of growing into his game and growing into kind of the NFL game. He still plays relatively a similar offense to what he was playing in college, and there's a lot that needs to evolve there. So I actually think this is a game that the Panthers could come in, could win, and then this time next week, everyone's saying, oh, well, maybe we're a bit early to crown the Cardinals as real contenders for the playoffs. I think that's where I'm at the moment.
I'm not maybe reacting to those games in the same way. I feel like the result for the Cardinals against the Lions seems like one of those games that the Lions just put up every now and then. They seem to have a habit. They'll mill around. They'll look decent here and there. I think this is going to be a bounce back. I think as well the Panthers looked better than they are against, especially on defense, against what is a very young and green sort of Chargers offense. Especially with Justin Herbert, who this time there was game film for, which makes it a completely different story. And I really think this is going to be sort of Kyler Murray coming back out and setting the record straight a little bit, getting himself back on track. I think I'm higher on Kyler Murray than you have been this whole off-season into this season. I think we do sort of see him differently. That I think for me this is an easier one to predict. I think the Cardinals will take this, sort of get things rolling, get things back on track. And I think it's sort of you've got them both coming off a game where the Cardinals underperformed, Panthers overperformed, where I have them. And I think this is where they kind of set the record back to straight on both teams. So I'm going with the Cardinals with the spread. No questions.
Yeah, it's a small enough spread for me to take the Cardinals here. Like you say, Kyler Murray, you'd back him to bounce back here. And I haven't been completely sold on Teddy Bridgewater. So, yeah, I'd have to take the Cardinals as well for this one. Okay, so
I've just seen the line for this game. Literally, as you were finishing off, I looked to see what we were chatting about next. Blimey, that line is a big one.
It's outrageous.
So the joint biggest line on the week. I'll let you guess who the second one is.
I've just
But
seen
the
where
joint,
it is.
the joint.
Oh my lord.
Highest
That's a
line
bit
of the week
harsh.
at minus 12.5 is the Ravens going in to play the Washington football team. Both off the back of losses, but I think the Ravens are a bit more high profile of a loss. But that Washington team, in particular, Dwayne Haskins, he hasn't looked that great so far. Could we
Say that
He's
again.
not
potentially see the return of Alex Smith in this game?
Not in this game for me. I think potentially after. I think that's why throw him out there against the Ravens and that sort of a defense. I think similar for me this game. One, like even the Ravens just a much better team.
Yeah.
Like the Washington football team, they might make it interesting. They seem to be finding a way to put up points, even with Haskins turning the ball over a lot. But I think same with Kyler Murray. I've just said there for Lamar Jackson, this is going to be a revenge tour kind of game of.
Oh, yeah.
Right, I'm not having that 2 weeks in a row. I'm about to light you up. I am putting myself back in that conversation of incredible quarterback. I don't like these questions around me and my team. Just going out there and absolutely running them through the floor.
Yeah.
And against
Doesn't
what is as well Chase Young.
I was
Don't know
just
fully
about
that
to say,
injury yet.
Yep.
If
That's
Chase
worrying.
Young didn't have that injury, I doubt the line's at minus 12.5. I bet it's at minus
Yes.
10 if
Yep.
Chase Young's playing, because Chase Young has looked that good. He's looked like he could be a foundation for that defense for the next
100%.
10 years, and that's great for the Cowboys. For the Washington football team.
Yep.
In terms of what you were saying about, is this the first time we see Alex Smith? I actually would be surprised, or not surprised, but if it was me, I wouldn't be putting in Alex Smith at all this season. I don't see the point in putting Alex Smith in. I don't think anyone in Washington, anyone around Washington expects to win and be good now.
No.
They've got a lot of things that need sorting out in terms of culture, in terms of their roster. No one expects them to be winning right this second. No one expects them to be in the playoffs. So this is actually a year where they could be the worst team in the NFL and they could get the first overall pick, and there wouldn't necessarily be a lot of people kicking up a massive fuss because it's them. They're rebuilding. No one would go, "Oh my god!" Like in the same way as the Jets, if they get first, everyone will kick off. It's like you pick there every year at the top 3 position. Like, why aren't you getting better? But Washington, they are getting better.
Yep.
They're just kind of building towards it. So it wouldn't be the end of the world if they're the first pick. I would say you just at this point, you want to keep Haskins in as long as possible to see what you've got, because if you are picking in that top 3 or 4, there's going to be potentially 2 or 3 guys coming out this year that are, there's 2 for definite, that are going to be considered as 2 of the better quarterback prospects coming out for the last 5 years, really. So, if you're going to be in a spot to maybe take one, and Dwayne Haskins is your best bet, then you're probably going to take one.
Yep.
So give Dwayne Haskins a season, give him all the chance, because then you've got a season and a half film on him and you know what you've got with him. At the moment, he's still only got half a season's worth of film, and it's with not great stuff around him. Give him a full shot. Putting Alex Smith out there doesn't tell you anything. All it's going to show you is a bunch of checkdowns to your tight ends and your running backs, and yes, you might win a few more games, but you're still not going to make the playoffs.
I think as well, you want to keep Alex Smith sort of around, and you run a risk with an injury as bad as it was. You put him out there, it happens again. He is not in your building, he's not anywhere. If you're potentially thinking you're going to be maybe drafting a new franchise guy if Haskins doesn't prove it,
Yeah.
I mean, it's worked once having someone sit under Alex Smith. I'm not saying that's the reason Mahomes is Mahomes, but
But it helps.
he's obviously, you can learn from him. So I would maybe keep him in the building this year. If you need to play him next year, is that someone that knows he's not going to be a franchise guy, that is happy to play for a year, 8 games, 10 games, whatever, before he passes the torch on. Don't risk that this year on Reese Haskins. He's not the guy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like his ceiling is Jameis. Is all I'm seeing when I watch him play. He can make throws. He can put points on the board.
I don't even think
But,
his ceiling's James.
Like, if you're being hopeful about him,
Jameis,
like
yeah.
and that's not a good ceiling to have, really. Of what we've seen of Jameis now, of just the turnover machine, but can put up points if you really need him to, which is what Haskins has been doing. That offense is putting up points. relatively like above what they should be, but it's just turning the ball over. It's a Ravens win. Move on.
Potentially chalk him up as just another quarterback to come out of one of these massive powerhouse college teams that, because they were so successful, got drafted really high, but actually at the next level, it's very easy to look amazing when you're playing against bad Big Ten or the worst opposition in the Big Ten, and you're surrounded by a roster full of NFL players.
Yep,
so
100%.
Yeah. Geographically, these teams are very close, but on the field, not so much.
Oh, yeah, that.
I was festering my brain for a little while there. Oh, gotta get it out.
We're talking about Haskins. James is just thinking about that. I'm like, come on, Sharp, I've got
geography.
a great line here. Let me
right, let's move it on. Let's move it on to the Cleveland Browns going into Dallas to play the Cowboys. Cowboys slight favourites in this game at minus 4.5 on the spread. And Sam, you mentioned it earlier, briefly. The Browns have a winning record after 3 games for the first time since 2011 and only the second time since 2002. Will this still be the case after this matchup?
You know what? I'm going to go out, and I actually can't believe I'm saying this myself, but I'm going to lock up the Browns for a victory in this game.
Your lock of the week is that? You're locking them up?
I'm locking up the Browns. They're going to win this
lock
game.
of the week. Wow.
Oh my God.
On the
they
Browns.
are going to win this game. They've got Denzel Ward back. Their defense is going to really slowly work into the season. They've got a mean D-line. The secondary's slowly starting to get there. Dak Prescott is starting. The pressure's starting to build behind Dak. He's going to try and air the ball out a load. I mean, he's got 2 games on the back-to-back that he's thrown over 400 yards. He's going to keep having to throw the ball, and I think that could lead to interceptions. And I don't know what it is, but there's something about the way that they've been using Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt in the last 2 weeks that feels to me like it's something that is just going to get better as the season goes on. 100%. Because the longer that they can lean on those two, and the more they can open up the pass game by leaning on those two, it just buys Baker and Odell and Landry time to get on the same page. So, I do think the Browns win this game. I think the Cowboys, quite frankly, have a bad defense, which 100%. Could get exploited. I think if the Browns stick to their game plan and they control time of possession with the clock, and they're aggressive on defense, and if they can steal a pick here or there, then I think they win the game.
This is a really difficult one for me because I think I said it for week 2. The Browns just lean on the run. Sam said, work your defense into it. You're fine. Baker, when he has to, when he needs to, can obviously, we've seen it. He can do it. He can get a job done, but you can't lean on him right now. You can't lean on this passing attack, so just go through the run game. Best backfield in football, I'd say at this point. It looks like just keep rolling with it. But there's part of me as well that just I like this Cowboys team. I hate the defense, but I like this Cowboys offense, and I think this is a game where I might be more inclined to say that I'm predicting the Cowboys to win, but I'm taking the Browns if I'm betting on it. Sort of with the spread on this one, I think that it's going to be close. I think this is going to be another fun game to watch. I think it's going to be it's going to be a bit of a chess match of the Browns trying to keep the ball away from this Cowboys offense, and when they do get it, having to convert. And I see this as a different one as opposed to the pressure mounting on Dak, him thriving under that pressure, and kind of asserting himself in this game as look, I don't have a defense here. I'm doing everything I can, and I'm clawing out a win here. So I think that's why I'm going to take the Cowboys on the week to bring themselves back to 2-2. But I'd be betting on the Browns at the spread.
I would be taking Cowboys on the spread and on the week, right? And you mentioned there about the run game being so big for the Browns, and you're right, it is. But there's a little stat for you here that within 3 weeks,
I know the exact stat coming here.
Cowboys have only allowed 3.7 yards per carry and 11 receptions to running backs.
Oh, that's not the one I thought you were going to go with.
So they can. Their defense has shown, first 3 weeks, they can get it done against the run.
Yep.
And if they're moving the ball into the air for Baker, I'll back Dak every week
100%.
to beat him there. And for that reason, I'll be taking Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. Might be biased because I've got Dak Prescott in our Dynasty League, but I think the stats don't lie here. So, yeah, for me, it's the Cowboys in this one.
I like it. But out of interest, what was your stat, Sam? What did you think was?
I thought he was going to go with the Zeke Elliott with was it six carries inside of the 5 that were pulled down at the 1 at the weekend. I thought
on the season, I think it's 6 or 7 times he's ended up on the 1. I don't want to talk about it. I've got him in fantasy. James, move us on. I was the one that sent that, and I'm still upset about it since I read it.
Well, yeah. Let's move on for your sake then, Matt. And we'll head across to the Indianapolis Colts, going into Chicago to face the Bears. The Bears who are 3-0, and off the back of a win against the Falcons, which we'll come on to later in the show. But you know what? Foles staged a big fourth quarter comeback here. I think it was 3 touchdowns. The Bears.
It's against the Falcons. It's just another Sunday. Let's not
granted,
glorify
yes.
the comeback.
But he has just been announced to start versus the Colts, which begs the question: will we see Trubisky ever again? And can Foles do the job against the Colts? Yeah, granted.
I think this makes the Bears a better team. I think not by a lot. I'm not saying they're going to be incredible. I don't think they deserve to be unbeaten.
No.
I'm slightly worried they're going to find a way that every week we sit here and say they're the worst 3-0, the worst 4-0, whatever team, and how are they doing this, that they're going to somehow just find a way to kind of keep having these little comebacks and just claw coin flip games back here and there and take wins. But I don't really know. This game for me is a weird one. I'm not convinced what I've seen from the Colts. It seems like their whole receiver, just injuries on injuries for that Colts team, which makes me think, as much as I don't want to say it, again, that the Bears are going to get it done here and go on to being 4-0. But I just don't feel like they should be. But yeah, I have a feeling this is just going to, that the Bears are going to take this. It may not be a high score and it may not be an exciting game. It may just be who can be more competent out of Nick Foles and Phillip Rivers.
Yeah.
For a whole afternoon. And I think the Bears take it.
I think when you're comparing quarterbacks in this game, yes, Rivers is... I mean, when you watch him throw the ball, it looks like he probably can't throw it further than 30 yards, and he's slow and laboured and old or whatever, but I think he is a better quarterback than Nick Foles. I think he just is. I think the Colts will probably win this game. The thing with Nick Foles is I think he's probably one of the best quarterbacks in terms of preparing in the league. I think that's what he probably does that a lot of people... He prepares as a backup so well as if he's going to start, and then he is so clutch that when he gets thrown into the game, he's already in that spot and he's well prepared as if he's playing the starter. And I think there's probably a lot of backups out there that don't prepare as if they're the starter. They prepare as the idea, and they're going into the week thinking, right, I'm the clipboard holder. What's my job for the week as the backup? Whereas I think Nick Foles' past, he probably goes into the week thinking, right, what have I got to do if I get thrown in the fourth quarter because my quarterback's gone down injured or has been pulled to win us a game? And he's used to being in those scenarios. But in terms of when you extrapolate that over a full season and you're going up against teams that have prepared to play against you, not necessarily Mitch Trubisky, and they do have two different styles of playing. Nick Foles doesn't rely anywhere near as much on his kind of mobility and playmaking outside the pocket as Trubisky does. Then I think that kind of impact of being the new kind of, big Nick on the field, that you lose that impact. I mean, this is not the best analogy for people listening to this podcast, I would imagine, but for football fans, English soccer fans, we're Reading FC fans, and a number of years ago we had a player called Adam. We had a player called Adam Lafondra.
Oh, Adam Lafondra!
And he was
still got his shirt somewhere.
Yeah, he was just money off the bench. He'd put him on after 60 minutes. He'd play 30 minutes a game, and he would come in. And he would just bang goals in left, right and centre. He'd bring him at the 66th minute. Everyone would start chanting if he wasn't on and we were losing. He'd come on, score 2 goals. I remember 1 month, I think he won Premiership Player of the Month. And he didn't start a single game because he was coming in scoring. Every game he started, he'd disappear. He was that, literally the guy that would come in and he was the super sub. And I think Nick Foles has kind of got that element around him. He's the impact guy. He comes in and that's great. But historically, throughout his career, over longer periods of time where he started consistently, he hasn't been incredible. Even his one season where he had a very good season in Philadelphia and he threw 27 touchdowns to 2 picks, 7 of those touchdowns came in one game. So you're then looking at 15 games of 20 touchdowns and 2 picks, which is still not bad, but it's not like, oh my god, this guy's amazing.
Not mind-blowing.
So I don't think he's a huge upgrade over Foles. Where I think the Bears could improve is I think that the Tariq Cohen, while Tariq Cohen going down with injury doesn't help them because he is one of their better playmakers, I think the fact that they might be forced to lean on Montgomery a bit more might help them. Because I think Montgomery's a very talented back, and for whatever reason, I know he's been a bit inconsistent, but for whatever reason, his carries have fluctuate madly. One week he'll come and get 20 carries, and the next week he comes and he'll get 5. And I don't necessarily understand that. You need to kind of find a way to win and stick to it, not just kind of randomly distribute the ball to whoever that week. So maybe that allows them to kind of play a different game plan. But I think the Bears are a bit of pretenders at the moment, and I would back the Colts. And to be honest, I would like to see the Colts win because I still think the Colts are a very good team and could be there in January.
Yep, Colts on the spread is definitely my pick as well. 1.5 is quite short, so I think it's one of the safer picks for me personally. Because, like you say, Foles when he starts, it just doesn't fill me with any excitement.
Whereas when he comes off the bench, he's Big Nick.
Adam LaFondra, what a reference! I did not expect to hear that one today. That was very nice. Fans of the Premier League of 2012, 2013 will know that one very well. I think that was the year anyway.
11, was it? It was 11-12.
Either way,
championship, wasn't it?
Start of the 2010s. Yeah, let's around that time. Anyway, yeah, let's move on, and we'll take a dive into the Jacksonville Jaguars coming in to Cincinnati to play the Bengals. Obviously, Jaguars offer a loss on Thursday Night Football, and the Bengals offer a first tie of the season against the Eagles. Yep. But the Bengals, they've come close to a win in all 3 weeks so far. It's been very small scores. So is this the week where they can finally get it done, Matt?
No, I don't think so, if I'm honest.
Cool.
I'm backing it with Minshew to... sorry to shut you down like that, but I think combination of James Robinson and Minshew. I think Minshew's a bounce-back kind of player. I think he's not going to be happy with his own stat line. The fact that against Miami, didn't throw any touchdowns, didn't convert on that. Obviously had a bit of back and forth with Fitzpatrick, about the old facial hair, and has come off on a loss on that. So I think he's not going to be too happy. And I kind of thought with the Bengals they were going to be a team that would coin flip. I think in our predictions I think about 8-8, them coin flipping their way there, being on the right side of these games. Currently they're not getting on the right side of them, which is concerning for me. That as much as obviously Burrow he's 3 games in, he's acclimatized into the league, I was maybe potentially a little bit more of a clutch factor. Just like those kind of games where you get into overtime against an Eagles team that is just on their knees, that just Carson Wentz is trying to have to do everything, running, diving, putting himself in harm's way all over the field, just because he can't get it to throw it to a receiver competently. And they couldn't kind of come out of that with a win. I think it's going to kind of be a bit of a hangover from an overtime, like from coming out with a draw for them, whereas the Jaguars wanting to bounce back sort of on a long game week. So I think for me, I'm taking the Jags here. I'm taking Minshew on a big bounce back.
Really?
And you, Sam?
I'd say for me, this is just another one of those coin flip games, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
I do think this is just another one of those coin flip games.
Yeah.
I find it really hard to... I do find it really hard to call. I'm going to give this one to the Bengals just because I think Joe Burrow is there. I think he's getting better week in, week out. I think they've got the better players on offense. And yeah, I think I'm starting to turn into a bit of a Burrow believer. I was very skeptical coming into the year because I don't like buying into rookie quarterbacks just because like a lot of these guys, they come out and they put up massive numbers. And yes, he did it in the SEC and blah, blah, blah. But I mean, he was playing on a team that had 14 draft picks. Like, it's very easy in college to look great when you're surrounded by what is effectively an NFL squad playing against the likes of Texas Tech or something. Like, you're not playing against the best competition. Texas Tech might have not been the best because they are in the Big 12, but you're not playing against the best competition most weeks. So I think Burrow comes out. I think he gets business done, but I think it's a very close game. So the line of ±3 either way, I think is effectively a money line bet this week. It's who do you think is going to come out on top, and I think it will come down to 3 points.
Yeah, this is coin flip for me as well. Like I say, Burrow's been so close, 3 games now. But I do think Jaguars are coming off the back of a down week, if you like. So I would probably take them ever so slightly over the Bengals in this game. But yeah, it's so hard to call.
It is a coin flip, 100%. And don't get me wrong, I'm not down on Burrow either. I'm not taking anything away from him. I was just hoping to see him come out. I had a bit more hope for him coming out on the right side of some of these. But I think interesting with me and Sam here, I think apart from the Ravens, different on every game so far.
Yeah.
We're really at
what's going on.
Interesting. 2 very different accumulators coming out of the line, I think, so far for this one.
We'll see who wins. Probably neither, because
probably you. You'll go 50-50 and end up taking the money.
Yeah,
I'll take that. Right, moving it swiftly on to the Chargers going into Tampa Bay to play Matt's Buccaneers, who are fresh off the win of against the Broncos. And you know the Buccaneers are favourites this game at -7.5. I was going to say heavy favourites, but it's not so heavy, but it's still, they're backed to win. I probably would back them as well on this way, because rookie quarterback for the Chargers, Herbert, going up against a top 5 defense on the season in the Bucs. So I mean, it can only go one way, right?
I think for me as well, like that's the main thing I'm basing this on, is just as well the way in which the Bucs are playing. There is nothing respectful, like in terms of like the on the field. There's no etiquette, maybe is the right word. This Bucs defense, they are loud. They will hit you and they'll let you know they've just hit you or picked you or done whatever. Like there is a real, I guess maybe a swagger. Maybe that's the more positive way to look at it. About this defense, and they're really coming out to let the league know we're here and we're a fast, aggressive defense. Against a rookie quarterback, if you're getting sacked, you're getting picked, you're getting a ton of pressure. And when you're getting that and you're looking up at them, they're just in your face, like, kind of going at you. It's going to rattle you, potentially, and it's going to be a bit of a welcome to the NFL. The only concern is us in the second half, for me. We seem to take our foot off the gas. It's a couple of weeks now where we'll put up numbers. Brady gets us in a great position, like with this offense, spreads the ball around. And then it gets to the second half and we kind of stall a little bit. So I think we need to start converting and really just nailing teams to the floor. Like, get the lead, get ahead. Don't just then lie down, like, kind of let the defense do the rest of it. Just close out the games, finish them as strong as we're starting them. But I think I'm taking the Bucs all week long.
Pretty much completely agree with what Matt said. I don't want to be too... I don't want to be too early on my victory lap or anything, but I know I go on about it pretty much every week. But, Winfield Jr.
Defensive Rookie of the Year?
Let's go. I mean, I think he could turn out to be the absolute steal of the draft, mate. One of 100%. The most productive rookies who... I mean, he's just... That entire defense is turning into a bullhawk, making turnovers happen. Really love that. I think this could be kind of one of those games where, as you mentioned, a welcome to the NFL moment where a rookie quarterback just kind of gets punished for making mistakes that against other teams wouldn't necessarily get punished, but when you are against a better defense with a lot of players that are ball hawks and aren't afraid to make the play on the ball and risk getting burnt over the top, you could get really burnt on. So I think the Bucs defense will have a great game. Like I could see them having a really good game. And the other thing is the Bucs offense are kind of doing what Brady offenses tend to do, which is just get that little bit more efficient every week. And every week they come out, and it doesn't matter whether they've got Godwin on the field or not, because he finds the guys, and he's already proved that he doesn't need pieces around him. He just needs people to do what he wants them to do. And as long as they do what he wants them to do and is where the ball he wants to put the ball, then they'll be able to catch it because he'll put it in a good spot. So if they continue to just keep being efficient and this defense plays at its highest level, then this is a team that is really growing on me, and I'm coming back round to being in the okay, they could be a genuine contender, because
we go.
For the majority of Brady's career, he's won games off of being efficient and having a great defense. There was only a 5 or 6 year span in New England that he had these mental offenses.
Yeah.
The rest of the time, it was all defense and be efficient, don't turn the ball over. So, I mean, there's not a departure here. He's got the great defense. He's getting more efficient, and he's got great weapons around him. So, taking the Bucks here at 7.5. Happy with that. Keep it moving.
Let's keep it moving. Right, and we shall do just that and head to the Minnesota game against the Houston Texans. Houston at home. Both teams 0-3 on the season off the back of losses, of course, in week 3. I think we know who I'd back in this game. Obviously, the Texans at minus 3.5, as I've previously discussed. Who do you guys have to win this one?
Texans. I think this is the game where they kind of say, like, right, we're out of that part. This was a game actually originally that looked like it was part of a really hard schedule.
Yeah.
Like, this was the 4th game on the back of those front 3 against what should be another, like, good defense. But something's gone very wrong with the Vikings to a point that I think they're going to be getting a bit disheartened, whereas the Texans are more on the other side of being 0-3 of, we're ready to prove ourselves. Like, right, we've sat there, we've kind of taken it for 3 weeks now. We're letting the league know we're still here. And this is one where you see that new look offense, a lot of the new pieces really start to work itself together. You see sort of, as I said, just Deshaun Watson just kind of come out and be like, I'm a very good quarterback. Like, I can still just take my team to a win, and gets Will Fuller to have one of those incredible games. Yeah. Brandon Cooks, fine. He's been in a lot of injuries going on, works him into the game properly, and you just really see it starts to roll. David Johnson comes out. He looked good against the Chiefs. A little bit quieter since, but you see him come back into it. I mean, Dalvin Cook is pretty much where I'm putting it. If the Vikings get anything from this game, it's got to be off Dalvin Cook going absolutely 100%. Nuts and just running over them. But I don't think that would be enough. And I think, for me, I would comfortably take the Texans with the spread. This is their game. This is where they really come back out and say, right,
This is a tricky one for me to call, because the way I see this as two teams that are both in very similar situations. They're both teams that 4 weeks ago, coming into the year, everyone probably would have had pegged as divisional round teams. The kind of team that should make it to the divisional round and would have an outside shot of playing a great game and making the AFC or NFC championship game. Really solid teams that will make the playoffs, should beat most wildcard teams. And then you kind of fast forward 3 weeks, they're both looking bad. Now, the Texans showed a bit at the weekend. They put up a fight against the Steelers and they were competitive, but they were still inconsistent on offense, which really bothered me. Like, Deshaun Watson is actually quite inconsistent, and I'm one of the biggest Deshaun Watson fans you will find. But when you go back and you watch his tape, he does have a tendency where he'll have two quarters where he will just play lights out football, and then he'll disappear for a quarter. Now, with a lot of teams, that's fine. Like, Patrick Mahomes can come out, put up 28 points in a half, and disappear for a quarter or even 2 because his defense and the rest of the team around him is good enough to bail him out. Deshaun Watson doesn't have that liberty. Deshaun Watson can't take a quarter off. He can't take a play off because their wins and loss rests off the back of him. So I think they're in a spot that they have to win. The Vikings on the flip side are in the spot they have to win because otherwise questions are going to start getting asked there. Is Kirk Cousins the guy? And this is two teams that have got people playing for their jobs. If Kirk Cousins doesn't win this year with the Vikings, people will start to ask, well, should we move on from him?
Yep, 100%.
If Bill O'Brien doesn't win games with the Texans this year, a lot of people are going to say, right, is it time to move on from Bill O'Brien? So, two teams that absolutely have to win. I think the Texans have the better quarterback, so I'm going to take them. But for me, this is actually a coin flip game. I think it could go either way. Yep,
it certainly seems to be one of those proven wrong games, which is weird to have with these two teams this early in the season, but hey-ho, it happens, you know. Okay, moving things on again. Moving into the Saints versus Lions matchup. Both 1-2, both off the back of losses in week 3. And both of these defenses have given up more than 30 points per game on average this season. Is this poised to be a shootout?
Ooh. Well, I can see sort of where you pitched that from, and I think you could see that sort of Matt stuff coming out and doing that. And I just know with Drew Brees where he's at, this whole game for me depends on Michael Thomas. It's currently said he's been moving well. He's targeting a week 4 return. He wants to be back in for this game. And I think with him seeing what's happened with this team over the last 2 weeks, especially what's being said about Breeze, just everything around this team, he's almost going to be rushing himself back and kind of making it look like when people are watching, when the coaching staff are watching, yeah, I'm moving fine now, it feels great, gets home and is sort of having to kind of swallow down that pain a bit and just be like, right, I need to be back out there, which is a concern, but it happens in the NFL all the time.
Yeah,
I think if he's out there and he is actually healthy, I think I'd comfortably take the Saints here. I think it still could be a high-scoring game, but I think if he's not, the Lions pretty much know what they've got to try and do, and it's easier said than done, but just kind of focus in on Kamara, make Breeze throw it more than 10 yards each time, and you could be in a great spot, and just don't do anything stupid on offense, just convert and be efficient. So this whole game for me rests on Michael Thomas.
Yeah, that is pretty much exactly what I wanted to say. If Michael Thomas is on the field, then I'm probably taking the Saints at -3.5. Because I have confidence that Michael Thomas is good enough that no matter against the secondary and the cornerbacks that they've got who are young in Detroit, then he's just the better player. He'll get away from the guys on him, and he will catch a lot of first downs. If he's not there, then it's been shown that you can beat the Saints by just keeping the ball in front of you.
Yep.
Bend, don't break. Because eventually, if you keep that ball in front of you and you just do everything to make sure that they're not converting on first and second down, then on third down, you force Breeze to throw the ball, and he can't.
Yeah. If Thomas is out, if the Saints lose, you have
do we see Taysom Hill?
Exactly.
Jameis Winston. These questions start getting answered because this is a team that is a win-now team.
Yeah.
And if you've got 2 games off, let's say the Bucks, how we've got this currently, Bucks are 2 games clear in the NFC South.
Yeah.
Then suddenly there's little alarm bells ringing in the Saints of, oh, okay, is Breeze past that window? Is he out of it? And we've got 2 guys here who want in. You've got one in Jameis who, tell him go chase down the Bucks. He's probably going to be quite motivated about that. Yeah. But also Taysom Hill, who's just doubted. There's so many people that say, can he, can't he? Could he be a quarterback in the NFL? Very interesting.
It's an exciting prospect, that's for sure.
But yeah, I think if Michael Thomas doesn't play, I'd actually be tempted to take the Lions on this one just because Matt Stafford can air the ball out. He's one of the best in the league at doing that. So if Michael Thomas isn't on the field, I'm not betting against Matt Stafford having a big game, but I'm also not betting against the Lions just fumbling a lead away.
Yeah,
definitely not quite Falcons-esque, but...
And the Saints defense, what you raised there about them giving up so many points, they're not going to be happy. Yeah. You could see a statement game from them here. But I think Michael Thomas plays, I'm locking the Saints in. If he doesn't, I'd be tempted to go the Lions.
Mm-hmm.
But especially I think it's a coin flip then, but I'd err on the side of the Lions if he's out.
Yeah, and it is one of the higher under-over games of the week as well at 54. So expect some big things in this game, I think. I've got high hopes, which normally means it'll be low scoring. So make of that what you will. Moving it swiftly on to the Steelers, going into Tennessee to play the Titans. 2 teams who are both 3-0 on the season. Steelers are slight favourites in this game at -2 on the spread. And so the Steelers have been incredible against the run so far this season, averaging 54 rushing yards per game allowed, which is incredible. So my question to you, Sam, is does Tannehill have enough to put the team on his back here?
Nah.
Cool.
Nah. Not against this defense. This is a game I've been looking forward to for a while, because coming into the season, I was so hard on the Steelers, and Matt was pretty down on the Steelers, and then Matt was so hard on the Titans, and I was pretty down on the Titans, and then up to this point, both teams have looked pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Coming into this matchup, I think this is maybe the best defense in the NFL. The secondary still needs some work, and they're not playing as well as they did last year. I think Joe Hayden looks like he might have lost a step, kind of on the downturn. But I mean, they're still one of the better secondaries in the league, and going up against that defensive line for a team that does rely so heavily on getting the run going.
Yeah.
This is a real challenge. Now, I think the Steelers offensively have got more weapons than the Titans. I think they've got the better quarterback for if it does go to a shootout for whatever reason. Yeah. So I think at almost every aspect of the ball, considering how the Titans are built, I'd say the Steelers have got this. So I think the -2 as a line is really generous, because I think this should be quite an easy take it by more than 3 or 4 points. I like the way that they put away the Houston Texans, who in my opinion have actually got more offensive weapons and a much more versatile quarterback.
Yeah.
So I struggle to see a way in which the Titans do come into this. Having said that, Derrick Henry's an animal, so who knows? Maybe he just bowls through that defensive line and cuts through it like butter. Probably doesn't, and I'm betting on the Steelers, and I think the Steelers are the better team. But I wouldn't be sat here completely shocked if the Titans made it a much closer game than I think it's going to be.
I think, yeah, this is an early season stake your claim for your spot in January, and kind of get the bragging rights, get yourself on that right track for January. And we've said, I think the one thing we maybe were able to agree on about the Titans is if they are going to become a contender, at some point they have to show that they can diversify, and that when the run is shut down or limited, that Tannehill and he can step up. And I think this is the game where it has to happen. This is the test.
Yeah.
And I think everything sort of I've been saying about them, that they are going to be wanting teams to focus on that run game. At some point, it's going to happen, and there's just going to be a game where Tannehill says, enough, I might only be a system guy sometimes, but I know this system well enough to have a big game in it, sort of thing. That it's really hard for me to call, because I will say the Steelers are looking better than I thought they would, and are staying healthier than I thought they would. I'm going to stick with my guns, and I'm going to stick with the Titans, because I think this is where they show they can get it done. I think Derrick Henry does enough, and especially around the goal line if he needs to, does enough. But also Tannehill, occasionally, as he's done, he's put up multi-touchdown performances quite a few times recently. That he catches them off guard at some points. And I think, but I won't be shocked if we're sat here as well, and it's the Steelers that are 4-0, and they shut them down, Tannehill got exposed. I won't be shocked.
Yeah.
But I'm going to back what I've said earlier, and I do believe that the Titans could come out of this with a win and really stake their claim as we weren't just a Cinderella team. We're here.
See, I'm more side of Sam on this one.
I think the majority will. I know I'm in the minority on this one.
I think this is my lock of the week, this game.
Let's go, James.
2 weeks in a row, my steal of the week. Yep, fair enough. No loss there.
I like that.
Steal of the week is the Steelers. We talk about Tannehill and being able to get it done. He's got a 6-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio on the year, which is good until you look at who he's played. So he's played the Jaguars, the Broncos, and the Vikings.
Yep.
All teams that, And we mentioned
they only just beat the Vikings.
Only just beat the Vikings. Jaguars is. They only just beat the Jaguars by 3 points as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's one of those that Steelers defense, we mentioned it before, is very good. They're going to shut down Derrick Henry if the stats are to be believed, if previous performances are to be believed. So they will get it done against the run, and they'll make Tannehill throw, and he'll struggle this game. So I think the Steelers at -2 is very good value for money, and I'll be locking that one up for this week.
Let's go.
Nice. But moving it on to the Seattle Seahawks going to Miami to play the Dolphins.
MVP.
Now, Russell Wilson is playing at an MVP level.
MVP.
So can we bank on that continuing into this game against the Dolphins?
Yes.
I mean, maybe not the same rate. Maybe not the same rate. I think he's on. I think his current pace is like 72 passing touchdowns on the season or something ridiculous.
Outrageous.
Yeah,
that's Madden numbers. Like that's just
literally.
not real.
On amateur.
But he's out there. He's out there playing. He's out there playing real life Madden. This is just showing everything that Russell Wilson could be when you finally give him that dominant, athletic, big-bodied number one receiver in DK Metcalf, and by having that, you've opened up Tyler Lockett again. So you've got this big guy who's producing loads, and then you've got Tyler Lockett who's playing back at that level because he doesn't have to be the number one only target in the offense. You've got a stable of running backs who all just seem to be able to perform. Chris Carson especially. I mean, I'm not sure if he will 100% be playing because I know he's got niggling injuries at the moment.
Yeah, not sure.
So I'm not necessarily worried about that. I think the Seahawks will deal with this game quite comfortably. It wouldn't surprise me if the Dolphins don't score a lot of points because the Seahawks are pretty bad defense. But I'll take the Seahawks by a touchdown. Pretty comfortable. I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I'm taking the Seahawks roll through this. I think you're going to have DK Metcalf, probably, who has been chewed out and teased pretty heavily for that inexperience. I don't know what you want to call it, just getting ahead of himself. It was a bad mistake. He's probably been told that enough. I think he comes out and says, okay, let's get back to saying how good I am. Like, he comes out and has a big game here. Russ just continues to roll. I think Fitzpatrick makes it interesting. More interesting than it potentially deserves being. The Dolphins don't look dreadful. They don't look like, I think some people had them way lower than they are now, but it's not enough. I think the Seahawks roll through this game, like taking it with the spread. No real concerns to me.
Yep, I'll take it on the spread.
Oh, can we skip the next one?
No, we cannot.
Okay, yep. So we'll move it on to the 4 p.m. games or the 9 p.m. if you're in the UK. And the reason why Sam is so bitter about starting this one is because it is his Giants going in to play the Rams. And we mentioned earlier there was a team who were joint top for the spread this week. And that second team was the Rams at minus 12.5 in this game against the Giants. And, you know, the Rams are disappointing week 3. They staged a brilliant comeback against the Bills, but only to throw it away in the dying minutes with a defensive penalty issue and numerous other things. But can they actually finish the job?
The number of Rams fans on Twitter kicking off about losing a game to defensive pass interference, and then all the Saints fans responding to them like, really? Like, come on now.
That was beautiful to see.
But could they finish the job off here, you reckon?
Yeah.
Is there even a job to finish off?
You know what?
Is it already finished?
I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say that I'm going to take the Giants in a number of my bets purely because I think the 12.5 is a massive line and there could be a garbage time touchdown or a garbage time field goal that brings it back to within 10.
I mean, a broken down 49ers just made it look easy.
Yeah, but
I think this Rams team, especially coming off of a week where they should have had a comeback win, McVay ain't going to let that slide easily. That's going to be a very, I think, do your job and do it right environment this week. And I think especially coming into the game against the Giants team, I think I'll take it with the 12.5.
I think we will get rolled. I think we will get rolled, but the number of times that spreads of 12.5 or more actually cover is so low just because this could be a game where the Rams come out and they jump out to a 21-point lead, and by the start of the second half, none of their starters are really playing that much. And when they are, they're not running at 100% because they don't want to risk anyone. So there could be we're 21 points up, but by the fourth quarter, because you're playing backups and you're just playing to get through the game, you know you're going to win it. There's a couple of garbage scores that don't mean anything that it's bad for the bet. So I would take the Giants with the spread, because this could be a 10-point game where there's a bunch of field goals or garbage time touchdowns that bring the score within. But in terms of actual football, the Rams are going to absolutely manhandle the Giants, and I think this game's over by halftime.
Yeah, I think it is a risky spread. It is incredibly high. But I think Aaron Donald's going to be sacking Daniel Jones using Devonta Freeman all afternoon, and it's just garbage time touchdowns. Like, it could happen. You might get one, but I don't think one's going to be enough to pull it within 12.5. This could be ugly.
Yeah, the Giants are too banged up for me to bank on a garbage time touchdown. Bring this back into 10-point range or whatever.
Bring it below 20 maybe with a garbage time touchdown is what I'm seeing, if I'm honest.
Yeah, something like that. And the spread's high for a reason. They want to put you into that risk category.
It's the week Daniel Jones finally comes good and is the quarterback 1 in fantasy on the week. And
so
if
Giants
he could not end
up
on the back of the injury cart, he's had a good week.
Yeah, fair enough.
And that's what we need to know. And we'll move it very nicely onto the Patriots going into facing the Chiefs. Both off the back of wins. The Chiefs -7 favourites in this one. Do you guys think that Cam Newton has the ability to keep up with Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah, I really do.
Wow.
I really do.
Wow.
This in my opinion is going to be one of the more difficult games for the Chiefs this year. I still think they win the game. They are they're the hot team at the moment. They've just beaten very comfortably the Ravens, who are probably the second best team in the league. So I don't think that this is like a major upset warning. But Chiefs by -7 seems like quite a lot to me. You're still going up against a Belichick-led Patriots team. And Cam is looking confident. He's looking healthy. So I think they will be well coached. And Cam won't... It feels to me like Cam's not got that kind of all about me vibe to him in the same way that he necessarily did when he was in Carolina. Like when he was in Carolina, it felt like he was the center of the show. Whereas now that he's in New England, I think he's got a quiet confidence and he knows that he's still a very high level quarterback. But he's also aware of the fact that this is a Belichick team, he's fitting into the system and he's here to do his job. I saw a great quote from him the other day. He was asked why he hadn't moved his family to Boston. And he basically just said, this is a business trip for me. He is there to work. He's bought into that system. And I think he is happy to do whatever that means, whatever he has to do to win. So I think this is a close game. And I'd actually take the Patriots at +7. Expect the Chiefs to win. But I think this could be closer than a 7-point game.
I think for me, for all the arguments of it's the Patriots, they're always going to be well coached. Andy Reid's coaching these Chiefs pretty nicely in comparison. And they're coming off of just shutting down Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
Which I would say is harder to do than Cam Newton this season, in terms of where they're both currently at. I think it's the perfect game to have next to each other. And this is still... I think you take this game at the end of the year, I may be giving the Patriots a lot more, or not a lot more, but more of a shot, and maybe it's becoming closer to... wouldn't really... You can't really have a coin flip with the Chiefs, but it's a lot closer. Whereas I think for just right now, he's still picking up the intricacies of this offense. It's a hard-to-learn offense. I think if you hadn't lost the 7, what it was, players from this New England defense, if they had a bit more, I'd think about it more. But I think the Chiefs just keep rolling here. I think the Patriots make a game of it, and I think it's going to be actually just a Sunday morning decision, I think, here, whether I take it with this, where I take the Chiefs or the Patriots on the spread. But I think the Chiefs are coming out winning this no matter what. I just think it's the perfect game to follow up from shutting down Lamar Jackson. You keep it going.
Yeah.
You shut down Cam Newton. The only thing is, can Belichick watch that game Monday night and pick something out and maybe get some tips about what they could do, which is why that's sort of what's shaking me on the spread a bit. I think it's just Belichick finding a way to coach it, know what's coming.
That's the thing. That's the thing. You're going up against...
if I was a Chiefs fan.
You're going up against the best coach in the NFL. Yeah. So that's why I'm worried by that spread of 7. That is quite a high spread. It would not surprise me if this doesn't come down to a field goal or a 4-point game, something like that, just because the Patriots and Belichick will be very smart, and they know that their way to winning this game is by keeping the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands.
People have known that though for a while now.
Yeah, no, it's very easier said than done. But if I'm hedging my bets on anyone to be able to scheme a game, it's them. They've got a massive stable of running backs. They've got a couple guys that are starting to look. I mean, Rex Burkhead is kind of playing back at how he has played in the past when they've really been successful. Sonny Michel is say what you want about Sony Michel, but he's a pound. He will just, if you give him the ball, he's just going to run at people.
He gets the job done in that.
Yeah,
he
exactly.
fills the role he has to in that backfield.
Exactly. So if they can establish the run, then maybe they can control the time of possession enough to keep the Chiefs within 7 points, which is why I'm taking the Patriots at +7. Don't expect them to win the game, but I do expect that they'll be able to keep them within a score.
Yeah.
Can't rule the Patriots out ever.
Yeah, you never can. I think Matt, you said it there as well. The Chiefs off the back of beating Jackson would be on a high, and I think the trajectory's going up. But you're right as well, Sam. Bill Belichick should be able to scheme against this team. He's had time to think about it. So Chiefs on the money line, but definitely against the spread, I'd probably go for the Patriots. But moving it on to the Buffalo Bills, the 3-0 Buffalo Bills, led by Josh Allen, of course, going into Las Vegas to play the Raiders, of course, who just lost to the Patriots, team we just talked about. And now the Bills are slight favourites at -3, which is quite short odds for this one.
Yeah, I would have thought it'd be higher.
Yeah.
I'd have had them more at like 5.
Potentially.
5.5.
My question to you, Matt, is the Bills, they're a polished team. They've been looking really good, and is this just another game where they're just going to prove it?
I think you've got to find a way to disrupt Josh Allen, and he's going to make little mistakes, and there's going to be occasional things you're like, oh, what has he done there? But then he's going to spend the rest of the game absolutely making up for it and just playing lights out and just doing everything he needs to do. And I think we've said it before with Stephon Diggs there. He just seems like he's just getting better and better. So I think it's the Bills' game to lose. You've got the Bills coming off of kind of getting out of that game with the Rams. It's almost slightly that effective if they'd had a comeback themselves of coming that close and then getting the job done, getting out of there with the win is going to kind of give them maybe a sort of placebo kind of high off of that feeling of we got the win there. That was nervous, like the adrenaline got going. Whereas you got the Raiders coming off of what we said could be a breakout for them of, oh, they're serious. And they couldn't get it done against the Patriots, against another quarterback who can run, but can also launch the ball if he has to, which is conservative. I think the Bills keep rolling, and I think they are a serious force this year. You've got to take them seriously. I still do really like the Raiders. I think we should be seeing them around January. But I think this is just a bad timed game for them. Coming off such a high in the new stadium, we talked about it, to then getting shut down by the Patriots. Yeah. And maybe just John Gruden got out-coached. We just said Belichick's one of the best coaches.
Yeah.
I think it could just be a case of John Gruden got shown up a bit by Belichick, and I think Josh Allen's going to come out here, keep his bid for MVP rolling, and I think the Bills take this.
Yeah. I think the Raiders, to me, just scream 8-8. They scream like one of these 8-8 average teams that are going to come out and they're going to have a week where they just play at their absolute best that they can play, and on that given Sunday they could beat most teams in the league because everything clicks, and that will happen 2 or 3 times a season. They'll have 2 or 3 times a season where they just fall apart, and then the rest of the time they will just be average and they will go 500. The Bills, on the other hand, are a legitimate team.
Yep.
They will be there in January and they will be discussed, and for me that is because of Josh Allen.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's because he's made massive strides in he has made massive strides in his deep ball accuracy, which is amazing because for the last couple of years it's been like, well, I've got this absolutely massive 6'5" guy who's athletic as hell and can throw the ball about 75 yards without even breaking a sweat, but he's only completing 40% of these deep balls. Now he's completing more like 70% because of Stephon Diggs, who is maybe the best deep target in the league at this point. But Josh Allen just seems to be able to find a way to win these games. And the best teams in the league, when they come up against other good teams and you get put in that spot where it's one play, you've got to win the game, the best teams win those games.
Yeah.
And the Bills won that game at the weekend. They went out, they got the job done, they came away with the win. And that was against a good Rams team. I don't think the Raiders are as good as the Rams. So I think Bills at -3 is maybe one of the easiest kind of bets of the week.
Yeah, it is definitely expected to be a bit higher, like you said at the start of the preview there. So yeah, I think I'll be taking the Bills. Good value for money. So a good choice for sure. Okay, so the penultimate game of the week that we shall talk about is the Eagles going into San Francisco to play the 49ers. A team that got it done against the Giants in week 3, Sam. Just going to rub that one in a bit more. The banged up 49ers who beat the Giants comfortably beat the Giants.
All right.
But yeah, so the 49ers come into this one at -7 favourites at the time of recording.
Seems about
but
right.
They are banged up, so could Carson Wentz take advantage of this?
Let's not forget that.
But anything can happen any given Sunday.
I think that with the way the Eagles are playing at the moment, the Eagles probably aren't that much better than the Giants. Yeah. They actually do not look like a good team. Carson Wentz, for all the money he's getting paid and for all the excuses people will make about him playing behind a bad O-line and who's dealing with a lot of injuries, I get that, and I take that into account. But he's also just playing bad football. He is just not playing well. So, for all the excuses people will make for Wentz and, he's done this in the past, blah, 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 and I get that, and he does have a lot of talent. But historically, when you actually go back, take out that 12-game stretch in his second season where he was the MVP of the league, for the rest of his career, you look at all the other games, he's actually wildly inconsistent. He will he almost like Mitch Trubisky, but just not as extremely. Wentz
that's clippable.
But Wentz will show up and have two amazing quarters in a game. And then the next quarter, he'll come out and it's like watching a completely different quarterback, which I don't necessarily get at this point. And I think that you can have a guy who's got all the talent in the world and is capable of playing at that top level, but if 5-6 years into his NFL career, he still can't just play at a consistent enough level, there have to be questions started to ask. Yeah, you just have to start asking those questions, and I think you are getting to that point with Carson Wentz, because even though he's behind a bad line, and even though a lot of his weapons are banged up, he does just make poor decisions sometimes, and he does things that make me stand and wonder, why are you doing that? You don't need to do that. Like, sometimes I watch him and I feel like he runs himself into challenge into hits that he doesn't need to take, or he runs himself into trouble. Now maybe that's because his O-line's so bad, so he doesn't have the confidence to sit in the pocket, which I get. But I'm starting to ask questions about Carson Wentz, and is he really worth the money they paid him? Because right now I don't think he is. And because of that money they paid him, they don't necessarily have the money to then go and spend on all of the other ancillary pieces around him. So I'm quite confident taking the Niners here, unfortunately. I think this Eagles team is just a bad team at the moment.
Oh yeah, I think Niners, comfortably, they will take this. I think the Niners are a team, especially like on their offense, you can almost just plug and play, it seems like, and they just make it work. And they've done that a few times. Like, it doesn't seem to matter who it is in the backfield. Gonna have a good game. Mullins has come in a few times now, and albeit he hasn't set the league on fire, he's got jobs done when he needs to. Yeah. So I think, the Niners take this win. I think the Eagles are in dire straits for the Eagles. I think Carson Wentz, we might not see the best of him again in an Eagles jersey, is what I think. Yep. I think he will end up somewhere else. I think partly there's going to almost be a fall, and like there was a point where it almost seemed like the city of Philadelphia was just in love with Carson Wentz. He was their guy. He loved being there. It's all going to go wrong, and I think you're going to see a bit of a Carson Wentz revenge tour of this is what happens when I've got an O-line, when I've got bits around me. But when I just talk about Carson Wentz, I think Hakeem Butler was with the Cardinals. Scott Carter has been picked up. I think that came out today because they need some help at receiver. It's again same story, different season. Everyone's getting injured, and there's just not much there that makes me think they can get this done. Like, there was points watching the Eagles game Sunday where Wentz was having to just run and just try and put the game on his back. He's not necessarily... He hasn't made his name off being a mobile quarterback. Like, you don't want Wentz getting hit. We've seen that. But he's having to. And I mean, he's got a bit of a clutch factor about him. Like, he can get the job done when he has to do that, but he shouldn't be having to do that.
That
I think
final
Miles
touchdown.
Sanders needs to take he needs to show up at some point as well for everything about him. When you've got an offense that isn't firing, the passing attack's not firing, where's he? Like, he needs to be playing at a much higher level if he's going to be spoken about and discussed how he has been at some points. As much as, it's not a great offensive line. He needs to perform
It's the
better.
same argument as Carson Wentz, isn't it? It's the, you don't have the offensive line, but at the end of the day, when you're a guy who everyone is saying is really talented, and we've seen you do it before, you need to show us something. You need to give us something, and at this point, the Eagles just aren't doing it.
Yeah,
so
something's not clicking on that.
Yeah,
the defense they're trying. There's points where they're putting pressure on the quarterback, like that hit they put on Joe Burrow. The defense is trying, but at some point they need this offense to really just cut out the turnovers. If Wentz could not turn the ball over as much as he has been, that makes them instantly such a better team, and maybe one that at some point can just coin flip a few games to not embarrass themselves this season.
Yeah,
but so far, it ain't looking like it, and the Niners are going to roll them.
It's a tough ask. Yeah, I think you're probably right. The 49ers in this one. But let's move it on to the final game of the week, Monday Night Football. The Atlanta Falcons going to Green Bay to play the Packers, in which the game has got the highest under-over of the week at, wait for it, 58. So it's one of the highest ones I've ever seen. Incredibly high. And my question is, can the Falcons
how many points?
Make it a hat-trick of chokes? Can they do it?
Yes.
3 weeks in a row, choke the
I
win?
want to know how many points do you reckon they need to be up by to be to win a game? Like, do they? If they go in at half, 30 points up, are you putting your house on them to win the game? Like, how many points up do they have to be that you would put everything that you're worth on them to win the game, do you reckon?
What's the under over?
5 scores.
58.
I think
58.
35 points.
58.
50.
58. Then I'm safe. I can go to bed comfortable knowing that Falcons have won.
58, and I would like Aaron Rodgers to not be playing.
This for me is lock of the week, because it doesn't matter if the Falcons start well, they're not going to win. This is a Falcons team in trouble. Dan Quinn's got to be sweating a little bit. The defense just can't do it. The offense is looking great. Calvin Ridley is on absolute fire. They're managing Gurley well so far.
Hayden Hurst, I'm going to have to eat my words. Hayden Hurst is coming good.
Yep.
And he's
Love to
looking
hear
very
it.
good.
So my boy, I saw it coming.
It doesn't matter how good the offense is, it seems, because the defense just can't do anything. They might be able to show up for a little bit in the first couple of quarters, and it's like they have halftime and think, oh, lovely, feet up, on to the next one, and then it's happened again. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, not the biggest fan of the Falcons, Bucs fan, so I do quite enjoy watching this happen. But I think the Packers aren't gonna. It's almost one of the worst teams to come up against at this point when you've just choked 2 leads to be against Aaron Rodgers, who's just playing well, and a Packers offense has got Aaron Jones running all over the field.
Yeah.
Lock it up, lock of the week. Easy Packers win with the spread done.
Pound the over on this one though. Absolutely pound the over, because I think the Packers are going to score a lot of points because the Falcons' defense is trash at the moment. But on the flip side of that, the Falcons' offense is great. Is a really good offense, and the Packers' defense, whilst I actually like it because they're an opportunistic defense. They're not a good defense at all. They're an opportunistic defense, so they will create turnovers because they've got a lot of ball hawks who'll go for it. But on the reverse of that, because they are kind of ball hawky and opportunistic, they're also probably going to give up a lot of big plays. So it wouldn't surprise me if you don't see players like Calvin Ridley and Hayden Hurst have a couple of big breakaway plays and kind of push that score up where Matt Ryan's been able to force the ball into a tight window. One of the Packers, Jair Alexander or whoever, has gone for the aggressive play and got burnt over the top. So I think both quarterbacks could very feasibly throw for over 350 yards, maybe both of them over 400 yards, both over 3 touchdowns as well, I'd say, and a very high scoring game.
Can't argue with that, but excited to see about perhaps a choke 3 weeks in a row. We love to see it. We love to see it. Right, it's good stories. Good
You're
stories.
so cruel here, James. Just waiting to see the choke.
It's not just
of
about the
the
Falcons. Whoever chokes, it's always entertaining to watch because you sat there comfort of your own home, 20 points up where it is, and then yeah, man, you can't beat a choke. I think that's.
I've got reason, I think, to be like this with the Falcons because being a Bucks fan, we've had years of being dreadful. And everyone in that division has happily let us know how bad we were. So you know what? For now, I'm going to sit here and I might be harsh on teams, but I'm going to enjoy every second of it and every choke. Music to my ears for the Falcons.
Enjoy it whilst it lasts. Enjoy it whilst it lasts.
Exactly. I might only have 2 years to enjoy this before we're back to quarterback nothingness. So
make it a good 2 years. That's all I'll say. Make it a good
exactly.
one. But unless you boys have any further points to raise, unfortunately, that is all we have got time for today's episode. So, as ever, be sure to head over to YouTube, go like, comment, and subscribe. Also, check out our Instagram and our Twitter. We're at the Brit Iron. And if you like, also check us out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts because we're now on both of those platforms. We are there. We are there.
If you're feeling particularly generous, why not drop us a recommendation on the old leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Exactly. It helps everyone out.
5 stars.
Exactly.
And by everyone, I mean us. So cheers.
Exactly that. Go leave a like and a 5-star, whatever it is these days. Whatever the kids say.
Whatever the kids are saying.
Go do that. But for now, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. See ya.